You know what? We're going to figure out if they can pull it off again here as we're looking for battleground number 2. With that loss, Team Freedom's going to go with the first pick. Team 12 taking us over to Dragonshire. Going to be very rotation-oriented, macro-oriented. But, you know, it's in a very different sense than some of the other maps that we have now with competitive Heroes of the Storm. I like the fact that we see this here from T12. It's a map that, generally speaking, forces a lot of good individual decisions to kind of be made. I feel like Team Freedom in the last game had a couple of moments where they, especially with specifically the double Jaina gank towards top, I complimented it the first time, but the second time and how much information was given for how long without any kind of punishment, or not so much punishment, but success within that gank, and then the punishment on Team 12. Those kind of decisions on Dragonshire are very, very profitable in terms of how much of a lead you can gain off of it. So I feel like already it's got to be pretty confident here for 12.
I think a lot of that will revolve around Goku's play in the early part of the year. North America played a lot of Leoric. He, in particular, was suffering on that, susceptible to some of those ganks. We'll see how that does come out as that plays, because Team Freedom has had a high priority dread on that Tyrael Blaze. We'll see if they continue to go down that route, albeit they do have, Freedom does, have first pick this series. We'll see if they try and lock one of those in before second ban. Or
just take one away, not even going to be an option.
Never mind.
When we flip the coin, what do we see with the results on Medivh? Team 12 wants nothing to do with it. Going to let Maev through. Team Freedom, do they still want to see that as the first pick, or do they just mix it up, go with something else? The answer is going to be Nai.
Yeah, it's interesting how much Maev, especially with the changes to Medivh, has been let through these last few days. It's been let through in EU, it's been let through a lot in North America yesterday, and I think a lot of teams are finding ways to play against it, finding that it's not as threatening. We still have another round. Obviously, this is not the live patch that we're on in terms of balance, so there's still some changes to come to Medivh and Maev, so we'll see some changes. And coming out of the gates hot, that's going to be a Tracer and Malfurion.
Yeah, and again, this is before the Tracer nerfs. So it's not like there's going to be any kind of, you know, struggling Tracer whatsoever. Very close to what we saw out of the Western and Eastern Clash metas. Very dominant within the 4-man within that pairing, the Malfurion Tracer. Stukov still going to remain at the top here for Team Freedom. And it's paired there with its Tyrael. Interesting choice. I will say, you know, I've been critical of the lack of Uther in a lot of North America so far versus, you know, the Stukov trade-off. This is one of the moments where I feel like it gets, you know, kind of dampened a little bit harder just because Tracer kill potential, levels 1 through 9, Uther's armor to be able to negate that is absolutely devastating. Stukov also sitting still, pretty easy pressure from Tracer. And then more importantly, picking the Tyrael, essentially committing to a lack of a 4-man with a warrior that has hard crowd control makes you very passive as the Stukov. And so what I'm trying to say is normally, you know, I have been critical, but I feel like this is even more so. This Stukov is concerning for me here with this draft for Team Freedom.
You can add the point-and-click stun, everything into there. And
yeah.
When you, I think, go down a little bit further, again, the Stukov Tyrael, your lockdown isn't really there. And so we'll see how that plays out. Sonya, Team 12 doesn't want to go with Sonya this game, which leads me to believe they might go down the Malthael route. And I think if you're Team Freedom, you have to decide, because if you ban out Malthael or Dahaka, then you're taking away one of your last options that you could have.
And also, if you ban out this Malthael right here, the value of a Garrosh within the 4-man and the kill potential that would provide over to Team Freedom would be great. I would genuinely go, if you ban Malthael, thank you. I will take my Garrosh with no counter. I'm feeling very good about this pickup, and it synergizes pretty well with the Tracer Malfurion that they already have. It's just mainly the kill potential that provides. There's not going to be like, if you see Johanna, right, which we know to be the kind of meta response, if you will, right now with the threat that you can see on the front lines on the other side, like a Maev at that table, like even it just essentially the Johanna wouldn't synergize well enough with any kind of Team Freedom's composition, nor would that be something that you want to, you know, pick up to deal with the Garrosh and the threat that he provides on the other side.
I like your call on the Garrosh. I think that would work well here on Dragonshire. We'll see if they go down that route. But you can see kind of that safety wave clear option of Junkrat being taken away from Team 12. I think Cure is generally going to be your Tracer player in this instance. So Dansky maybe goes down a Gul'dan route, maybe just Greymane again, because you got to have some wave clear to allow Tracer to roam and allow her to do her thing, and then look for potential elsewhere. We could also just see the ETC again. You've got the Malfurion. You can try and lock down a target, especially if you can get onto the Maev. You can bait out one, get the other, use that vault so that she can't evade, you know, danger as easily. So we'll see what comes out here from Team 12.
I'm trying to figure out if there's any kind of offlaner that I want to see prioritized in this situation with Blaze already being focused on. They go with the Dahaka, and there's the Johanna pickup. Interesting choice from Team 12 to go with the Johanna there over the Garrosh.
That's safe.
It's extremely safe. I'm looking for, is there a synergy or a pairing with their backliner that I'm missing out on here? Because normally when you see the Johanna in higher priority in that type of situation, it's only because there's going to be value with Condemn. And I mean, historically speaking, there's two that kind of were that priority. Junkrat banned out, Vala. Do we need to talk about her health pool? Like, I mean, it's a bit of a problem. Reign of Vengeance was always the go-to in that type of circumstance. But I also don't necessarily hate it because, again, talking about the weakness of the 4 out of, kind of Team Freedom's composition and the kill potential with Maiev, it's almost kind of, this is one of those moments where when I ask teams, what is the only way you lose this game, take that away. I feel like the Johanna is a kind of removing that risk of any threat with your warrior and your 4. But it does feel like it goes, couldn't you get a little bit more kill potential there? Again, especially with that Garrosh opportunity.
I started to think that Dahaka might have been a takeaway instead of taking Malthael, because you lose a pulse bomb target, I think, when Dahaka's there, because Dahaka can just burrow underground and negate that. So maybe that might have been a play around the Dahaka. Take Dahaka. Goku obviously strong on that hero. Give up the Malthael and deal with the potential of that. And we'll see if Malthael does have that effectiveness. We have Jaina picked up one more time here for Freedom, and the Malthael obviously in that top lane. So for Team 12, we need another damage dealer. You've got some wave clear with Johanna, but is it just going to be Greymane again behind there, or do we mix it up a bit?
I wouldn't mind the Greymane in this type of situation. Obviously last game Team 12 looked great with it, but I would say the biggest difference here is the control over some of the objectives, specifically the Giants and Knights cycling through bottom, and what that can do there. It also helps a little bit with the one-shot capabilities that Tracer's going to kind of implement towards this game, and Stukov is going to really drastically kind of, suffer with that if you end up going into the Greymane route. If you don't, it has to be something that can very much be survivable and kind of hold its own, like a Tychus, I would say, in this type of situation, or the Hanzo. See, now the Johanna's getting even more curious, because there is synergy with Johanna's Condemned, Dragon Arrow. You could make the argument that there's synergy with Scattering Arrow and even, Stormbow and some of the damage output that you can get with that. But I can't help but feel like if you were worried about the backliners with the offensive composition on the side of Team Freedom and you were going to make that decision on where do you go with the safer route, I go with, a beefier front line with more kill potential and then a, kind of a more self-sustained backline rather than going with the safe front line and the risky backline. This is one of those moments where it goes, very unique thought process. I feel like they're on the side of Team 12 when it comes to what they're removing on the win condition of the other side.
I think there's obviously the Hanzo factor of he plays really far back. And if you're scared of Maiev, then can't kill what you can't see because I'm way back here. Like, come on in an extra 2 range because that's where I'm at. So we'll see. Maybe that's. I mean, we've seen a lot of more conventional style, the Junkrat versus Medivh, maybe the Hanzo versus the Maiev, things like that. I think teams are keeping it safe, especially with that Johanna pick dread.
Yeah, it's one of the moments. Like, I will say, even though I was kind of critical about where we see the Johanna, it's a deterrent on the Team Freedom, and it's like, oh, over the Garrosh, why would you want to kind of move in that? I am glad to see that there is focus on getting a synergy with Condemn of any type, right? That's one of the biggest struggles that she has, the not having something to be able to help with her only default crowd control that she has whatsoever. And then I'm expecting to see, kind of mobility picked up in the talents as well to help with those initiations and those skirmishes. Provides a lot in the control. It's just one of those, I feel like you won the draft. Do you really need to take any risk on those backliners? And now that suddenly goes like, if I am Team Freedom, when I see Yoda on the Jaina, I'm looking for, any opportunity to get a dive on the backline, look to get a flank and a collapse onto Team 12.
Well, speaking of the collapse and the way that we might expect Team Freedom to fight, Dread, you and I, despite Team Freedom having that 3-1 victory yesterday, it seemed like Team Freedom wasn't necessarily willing to pull the trigger on some team fights. And when you look at this, because you have Tyrael, you don't have that hard CC. So it feels like Maiev is going to be the initiator in terms of getting somebody pulled in. Then you have to be on point with the lurking arm that goes down, as well as Jaina. And I really wonder, can this team execute the team fights that I think that we need them to be able to pull off? They're coming in. Dahaka's already coming in.
Yeah, this is a 5-man collapse for this initiation. Condemn's going to go ahead and pull in 3. Yoda seems to be the focus. Able to kite out for now. Blizzard, but throw down the flashlight. That is the thing that gets a kill here for Justing. Well, first blood over to Team 12. A lot of resources committed to it, but I don't think it's going to cost them too much as that wave was prepped very well. Keep in mind, Team 12 that was not a second decision. So what we saw there from beginning to end of this level 1, that they commit with the rotation. They know they're going to suffer with the middle lane. So they send, Tracer to sit in the shrub and poke up towards top in case Malthael, maybe wants to get a bit too aggressive on the Haka. If so, 2 versus 1, get the kill. Otherwise, you prep to Haka, get a free prep on that, and he goes, I can brush talk anywhere, and I lose near 0 experience. Very cleverly done here for Team 12. I mean, it's not the first time we've ever seen this, right? But it's one of those, you can see the thought process there, being there from square 1 in this game.
Both teams picked up their Siege Giants. So far, the clear in favor of Team Freedom, but Justine's going to come down, try and neutralize that. You can see the shielding from Tyrael, keeping those Siege Giants alive a little bit longer. Bud's on Malfurion trying to heal up his, but in the meantime, see the rest of Team Freedom make their way down.
This is going to be a curious laning situation for Team 12 because it's obvious that they're suffering when it comes to the laning circumstance. The Haka is going to be fine up into the 1 versus 1, but when it comes to the mid and bottom control, the siege and kind of zone control so far of Team Freedom seems to be good enough to draw aggro on the rotations, and Tracer's then gonna kind of second guess where she wants to be applying pressure. And because it's so much pressure that Team Freedom has on this bottom front walls, it's making her rotations rather predictable. You see a feigned rotation from, it was gonna be towards bottom and then maybe towards top, but essentially Cura's kind of, stuck in limbo, and that is not what you want with this composition. And especially how dominant those first couple of picks in the rotation of this draft went for them right now. Things are, I would argue, not going to plan, or at least as expected, other than that first level 1 kill.
He's looking for it. He's searching and unavailable to find that. Freedom, they have the significant wave clear. They find themselves in, they find themselves out. As you said, that pressure in the bottom lane, they took both towers already. They've turned their attention, has Team Freedom, up to their knights in the top left. That will, again, force out another rotation from Team Freedom, or from Team 12, and Team Freedom seems to be looking to rotate down. They might have their eyes to do more damage in that bottom lane.
Yeah, actually, this is going to be extremely good for Team Freedom compared to that of Team 12. Even though normally when we see Hanzo compositions, they're the ones sitting back and gaining a advantageous situation whenever looking at defense giants versus, the siege capabilities of them and looking to get that rotation and trade. I feel like Team Freedom has already displayed with the Tyrael, the Jaina, and the Stukov that the threat on the siege seems to be a little bit more dominant, stacking the camps and getting pressure towards bottom. I feel like this is really going to be a moment where, Team 12 has to make a kill or a play with that Tracer, which you see looking towards the threat towards top. Only going to find Nasmus, and as long as Nasmus keeps doing this is going to be extremely good for Freedom. Team 12's got to do something.
Well, they're doing something down here, and it's called holding on for dear life, because this fort is under assault. The shielding from Tyrael, the damage from Yoda being there on Jaina, they are all steam ahead. But Goku's finally trying to do something about it. He's coming in, misses the tongue onto Yoda, but Yoda is way too deep. That's going to be him falling down one more time. Cure escaping the clutches of death, at least for now, as Bud's keeping him alive. Lutano trying to make plays, but I think they're on the retreat, Dread.
Yeah, nice tether attempt there for a moment. Going to get the follow-up on the Shadow. It allows him to get out, but Team 12 is going to use this window to make sure they get both control over both of these shrines. And with the loss of that Jaina, it's going to be whether or not they can get the Dragon, and Malthael's trying to stop this as much as possible. Stukov's got the lurking arm. This should be an interrupt.
Ooh. Timing, as Malthael's made it up to that top shrine. Cure coming in with those blink charges. They've got the tongue. Could it be kill number 3 there? And it is Maiev going to go down, and Team 12 starting to turn up the heat.
Yeah, they are finally getting those picks that you would expect their composition to kind of aim for originally. And it's honestly great for them if they're going to be successful in this game, because I was saying that things were getting rather grim when it came to the rotations and just how they were playing out kind of the laning situation. Now, in Dragonshire, that matters a lot. But they end up getting a couple of kills, using those windows to just kind of get staggered deaths, and without Team Freedom to kind of recollect themselves, understand how they want to adjust without laning, leads to the first Dragon Knight of this game. See what they make happen with it here. It looks like pressure towards bottom is right now going to be the focus. I wouldn't mind if, actually I would love to see Team 12 focus on top in this mid game a little bit more with the siege on the Dragon Knight. I know I say that normally where I'm like, oh, what kind of threat that can provide, but mainly because we're looking at the best offlaner for Team Freedom's composition is either one Tyrael, who has to be a part of the 4-man, not going to be the best option realistically, but then you go Malthael and Maiev, both of those very susceptible to Tracer ganks. So if you rid of that top front wall, or if you just even cripple that top fort, the distance to safety, especially without a global on your side for Team 12, gets from good to great compared to, some of the other compositions and drafts we see on Dragonshire.
Gives you a lot of room to work. Unfortunately, they have the other things in mind, and I think I agree with you. because they have struggled to find those kills with that Tracer in terms of the traditional sense. They've kind of found them the hard way, and Freedom kind of walked it down bottom lane and kind of gave up a kill there as they got super aggressive. So Freedom has kind of helped out in that sense, but Team 12 could be helping themselves. Speaking of helping themselves, Goku said, "You can't have any of this for dinner because I'm walking behind the wall."
Yeah, nice use there of the passive. Make sure he keeps himself nice and healthy. And then downtime, showing that much information, leads to a free giant rotation for Team 12.
I didn't think about this, Dread. Heroic-wise.
Hold on,
wait a minute.
Twilight
Hold
Dream,
on,
bomb
baby.
down.
Cure!
Gets the first kill. Not going to get the parting gift collapse onto Lutana for gift number 2, but that was very clean. Another initiation. Team 12, they just start a fight and end it so very fast.
Warden's Cage into Ring of Frost. I got really excited about the potential there. I'm like, wait a minute, like you're locked in here.
Yeah.
And you don't go very far when you get locked in like that. But with Daka, with Johan on the front line, you've got an Iron Skin and you've got someone that just goes underground to hide from that ring. We'll see if Yoda can really make that big play, because I think it is going to come down. At this point, given the composition you're going against, I feel it's got to be that super opportunistic play the same way you would with maybe a mosh pit, something like that, where you're not going to have that many opportunities to get max value. So you just got to get what you can out of it.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And you see that kind of collapse there for Team 12 over to the night camp, questioning if they want to get overly aggressive, end up playing it passive, realizing the collapse could be here from Team Freedom. Team Freedom with the securing of that top night camp. They have gotten more damage on the top half of the map. Team 12 mirroring with the pressure down below. So essentially, when we look at the Dragon Knight spawning in these type of moments, right, the pressure up on top for Team Freedom, they're most likely going to get this, right? Team 12, they're going to apply the pressure through bottom, which you see that trade. And then it's essentially who can make the collapse and rotation faster, actually even catching out the Malthael on that side. That's a huge win here for Team 12. What I was going to say is it's who can make the rotation to the opposite side faster and more effectively, and that is very much going to be for Team 12 here. Getting that kill, that makes that even that much more so of a true statement. This is going to be very difficult to hold off a Dragon Knight over this time frame now for Team Freedom.
Justin trying to get the interrupt on the Hearth back. That was not strictly just to cap the Shrine, although he will be able to do that. He was trying to delay the Hearths back there, give his team more time to work. He did end up taking one tower, didn't get the second one, might still behind all that, but it looks like there's enough damage there from Freedom. Instead, they're making their way towards the middle for the moment. Johanna still holding point in the top.
It was a bit of miscommunication on controlling that bottom shrine, though.
Yep.
That was definitely a free Dragon Knight instantly, and they actually lost it because Tracer and Malfurion pulled off the shrine too early. And now what I said was a moment of this should essentially be a free Dragon Knight. Is very much not a free Dragon Knight unless Goku, not able to get it there, pulls out the drag. Nice cleanse, if you will, from Collusion with that lurking arm silence. Pull in onto Cure, passive drop, but no execution. Dragon Arrow connects, Blessed Shield, Twilight Dream, Ring of Frost, it's all used, but it doesn't matter. Their ring not going to connect, and the Wombo combo from Team 12. Got them 3 more, 8-0. Through the first 9 minutes of this game.
I mean, that's big time right there. Like that is big time in terms of the way this map will play out, because now that Dragon Knight they didn't get about 30, 45 seconds ago, they're going to get that. And with 3 members down, you start to see structures fall at this point. And when those structures start to fall, you look at the experience, it's 14-13. By the end of this Dread, you're going to be looking at something like 16-14, because they're going to start mowing down these lanes with those forts available. It looks like they might just try and work their way towards that bottom lane, because they already softened up that keep wall.
I will say that though this is still extremely, dominant game here for Team 12 in this situation, with how much emphasis they put towards this bottom lane, they're really crippling themselves on win conditions and way to open up this map, and it might cost them. Buds is now going to get engaged on. Warden Cage goes down just onto him. Yoda tries to come in with the damage. The Blizzard, the tether back. Sanctification even dropped, not enough to get the last tick of damage. Ice block used here from Buds, and he is just taking Team Freedom for a ring around the rosy here. Can he keep himself alive? No, he cannot. Post bomb ends up being used. 3 kills for 1 here in favor of Team 12.
Oh, that lurking arm might have just bought enough time, because Team Freedom, they're going to start taking core damage. Tracer is on her way back as Cure back in the mix, and Cure has his eyes set on Nasmus. You see the recall out of the last rites, so Cure will live, but this core may not.
It's not looking like it's going to be so, as there is still 30% HP on that Dragon Knight. Ring of Frost goes down, but at this point, it is just trying to throw out any cooldown to save this game. But it's all for naught here. Team 12 is going to take game number 2 over Team Freedom.
Trent, it feels like both of these games have these moments where it's like, you don't expect the game to end. And then Freedom does something kind of a little bit like, all right, we saw the pick onto Yoda at the end of the first game. It's like, all right, you gave up the keep. You shouldn't lose the game here. You end up losing the game off that. It took a team fight there at the very end. Very unorthodox team fight. Couldn't get the takedown. Buds did a really good job surviving there. But it's just like, all right, that shouldn't have been the end of the game. Like, that should not have, in a traditional sense, that's not normally how you would see a game end.
Yeah, I think that last game, game 1 and game 2, though I agree with you, and it kind of shares the same tone. They're two very different endings, like to my brain, right? Game number 1, you just kind of go, boys, we're gonna have to clean this up. That's we're in the HGC now. You know, that can't hold its own here. Versus game number 2, I feel like that one is a bit more. I can see the desperation within the kind of thought process of the team, feeling like that's gonna be the most, successful fight for them. I'll say if Team 12 sieged any other part of the map, I think that fight is the best fight for Freedom in terms of realizing kind of the situation. But because Team 12 went down towards bottom, I feel like in terms of map control and how much limiting like they were over the next Dragonite phase, I would have been like, we can wait till the later stages. We can push that out. So I agree. It feels a bit more panic. But that being said, if they siege at a different area, that probably is the most realistic fight for them to take. It was pretty close. Buds played it, near perfectly, right, to get the kite out that long. So it is definitely weird and uncharacteristic, I feel like, from Team Freedom. But game 2, I guess I try and give them at least a bit more benefit of the doubt on that.
The fact that Team 12, they could have easily maybe pushed top, maybe pushed mid, got that 16, and then threatened bottom, but they went directly there. We were just commenting on, like, boy, they have a high priority towards that bottom lane, and Freedom came down to defend. And as you said, that fight anywhere else, I think, is the right call. But that fight right there, if I've had Dragonite walking down at that level, 14, I don't know how many minutes in, I defend. And I think that they could have defended. Instead, they lose the game. It just felt very abrupt.
Yeah, it's one of those, kind of moments and acts of desperation. But either way, we got to figure out if maybe Team Freedom still has that desperation here, as we're going to be going to a quick commercial break. And when we come back, we have more HGC action with Team 12 and Team Freedom. On to Cure, passive drop.